Hi guys, welcome to second episode of CP1 series. So in this episode, basically I will be discussing how to approach different past style papers. Most of the students know about the concepts, but where they lag is how to approach a particular question. So we will be discussing basically how to approach a question. For example, if a question says you list, so list का मतलब क्या है? That you basically have to list the points. Whether you are giving exam from IFOI or II, you have to make sure that you are focusing a lot on what is given to you in the question. We are most of the times in our habit that we just read the question and we just start writing or start typing. But we don't pay attention to what is being asked, and that is one of the most important reasons for students not clearing the exam. You have to make sure that you are reading the question very carefully. I would say you that maybe you go through the question twice or thrice. First of all, try to understand what the question says and then go for the answer. For example, if a question asks you to list down the points, then what an examiner wants from you is not any details related to any answer. They just want you to list the points. If it is a 5 marks question for listing the points, we want 10 valid keywords. That's it. We don't want any detailed explanations, 10 listing down points. Even writing down just the keywords will also work. If a question says you describe, detail, explain, that means now examiner wants us to describe in detail. Now, how would you attempt a question of description? For example, generally students have a habit that when it comes to a long question, they are still able to describe. But when it comes to say 5 marker, 7 marker, 3 marker, they don't know what to describe. So for example, if it is a 8 marks describe question, what you can do is you can make 4 subheadings, and in each of the heading you can just write down 2 points or 3 points, 4 points depending on what you know about the heading. So one thing that you have to understand is that whenever a question is about description or explanation, we definitely have to make the subheadings. Especially जैसे ही आपका क्वेश्चन का मार्क 7 से ऊपर जाएगा, मेरे को हेडिंग्स तो एक मस्ट है जो आपके आंसर में होनी चाहिए. तो आपको अगर बहुत ज्यादा एक पर्टिकुलर चीज पर स्ट्रेच करना है, आप 8 हेडिंग बनाओ और उस पे 4 to 5 पॉइंट्स यू कैन राइट डाउन. लेकिन अगर आपको लग रहा है कि यार आपके पास क्या है कि जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल इफ इट इज अ 8 मार्क्स क्वेश्चन, यू हैव 7 to 8 आइडियाज एंड यू कैन जस्ट स्ट्रेच इट मैक्स इन 1 or 2 लाइंस, तो यू कैन मेक 7 to 8 हेडिंग्स. तो ऐसा कोई हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल नहीं है कि हाँ 4 हेडिंग्स रहेंगी या 8 हेडिंग्स रहेंगी. बेसिकली ये आपके ऊपर है. बट एज एन एग्जामिनर what we want is, if the question is about description or explanation, you should stretch on a particular idea. Instead of giving multiple ideas for a description question, it is very important to understand the crux of the question and you can make multiple points for a given idea. Always you do not have to work on new ideas always. जो आप एक पॉइंट लिख रहे हो, जो आप एक आइडिया दे रहे हो, पहले आप उसको तो स्ट्रेच करो. डिस्क्राइब का मतलब क्या है कि स्ट्रेचिंग ऑफ योर आइडिया, एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑफ आइडिया. हमें लगता है यार 20 नंबर के क्वेश्चन में डिस्क्राइब करने के लिए बोल दिया, 40 डिफरेंट आइडियाज कहां से लाए? एग्जामिनर आपको 40 डिफरेंट आइडियाज नहीं लाने के लिए बोल रहा. आप अगर 10 to 15 आइडियाज भी हैं आपके पास, मतलब डिफरेंट कंटेंट है आपके पास लिखने के लिए, और आप उसको अगर मल्टीपल पॉइंट्स में स्ट्रेच कर सकते हो, दिस इज व्हाट एज एन एग्जामिनर वी वांट फ्रॉम यू. नाउ जनरली स्टूडेंट्स फील चलो यार पेपर 1 तो फिर भी शॉर्ट स्टाइल क्वेश्चंस आते हैं. वी हैव 5 मार्कर एज वेल, वी हैव 7 मार्कर एज वेल, वी हैव 3 मार्कर्स एज वेल, वी हैव 10 मार्कर एज वेल. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू केस स्टडी क्वेश्चन, इट्स अ 50 मार्क्स क्वेश्चन. बट इफ यू हैव गॉन थ्रू डिफरेंट पास्ट पेपर्स, यू मस्ट हैव रियलाइज्ड दैट केस स्टडी बेसिकली क्या है. केस स्टडी कुछ बहुत हाइप किया हुआ है. बेसिकली केस स्टडी इज व्हाट दैट यू विल गेट by getting detailed background information and all your following questions will be based on the same set of information. Now sometimes students find this thing is very helpful, or they would say easier to attempt, because at least जो limited 4 to 5 questions हैं, they are based on the same background information. It's not like that every time the information is changing. In paper A, every question has a different background. In paper B, there are 2 different backgrounds and there are multiple questions based on those background. So when it comes to case study questions, you do have to understand the case study in very detail. Try to grasp all the background information which is provided to you. Sometimes there's nothing in the background information. For example, just a line, but maybe there's a 10 marks question based on that. So what they expect from us in those type of questions is use background as specific and try to incorporate your knowledge. देखो CP1 इतना मुश्किल नहीं है जितना हाइप किया हुआ है. What is required for this subject is correct understanding and correct approach to tackle the questions. So for listing down, giving me explanation does not work. For explanation, simply listing the points does not work. If a question is just stating, you can just state the points, no explanation required. Now, sometimes students say that we are not able to manage the time. That means you don't understand what the question says. It is possible to attempt the entire 100 marks question in the given time frames, provided that you give your best. You do not have to completely sit and then think. You just have to reduce the time between reading a question and start writing or typing it. So that's basically your thinking skills. This is what we require, that your thinking skills have to be something like on reading a question only, you are basically getting points in your mind. You know what to write, what not to write, and then immediately on reading the question, do not start writing or typing. Pay attention to the question again. Give 2 to 3 minutes, read to the question, read it twice, thrice, and then finally come to the answer. Frame the points in your mind, frame the pattern of writing in your mind, and then write. Now, students generally have a habit that when we are typing, especially for IFOE questions, students pay more focus on typing rather than on thinking. So, if you are appearing for IFO exam and you are appearing in a type format exam, it is important that we are focusing on the typing as well, but typing से भी ज़्यादा important क्या है, that your thinking has to be there. When you are typing, your concentration should not be on your punctuation and grammar. Your concentration should be on what to write and what not to write. We can correct all these things later on as well when we are done with the complete paper. But it is important to understand the points. Very common question among the students. How to go for specific versus general? When to write specific, when to write general? Guys, it's very important to maintain balance between both. If a question is completely specific, lot of background information and is there, and as an examiner, what we want from you is definitely starting from the specific points, then maybe put on some general points, because obviously there is limited information in the question and we have to make some balance of general points as well, and then maybe ending again with specific points. But if a question is completely general, as such कुछ भी background information नहीं है, maybe just one liner information is there and they're asking us to list down say different type of risk, but they have not explained the scenario. They've just given you, for example, you are working in the XYZ company, explain the risk prevalent in this company. That means the question is expecting even the general points from you. So it is important to maintain balance between both general and specific points. ऐसा नहीं है कि हर चीज में आप इतने स्पेसिफिक हो रहे हो कि आप बिल्कुल भी जनरल नहीं रख रहे हो, और हर चीज में आप इतने जनरल हो रहे हो कि आप स्पेसिफिक में जा ही नहीं रहे. So this you have to understand when you are doing different past style questions, that if a question has detailed information, if a question is giving us background information, definitely we have to inculcate that information in our ideas and somehow relate our general points to that specific content. So this was what I wanted before I start with the specific discussion of the different content. So in next episode, we will be basically discussing the different content. I will be starting with assets market discussion. Stay tuned for further episode. Thank you.